I want to welcome Agile XRM to the podcast. I've known the people at Agile XRM for the past 12 years. I've seen how their business process management tool can add massive value to complex organizational processes in sectors such as finance and government. If you have complex processes or a need for dialogues on the Power Platform or Dynamics 365, take a look at how this BPM tool can add value. You can find them at agilexrm.com or check out the show notes for more details. Welcome to the MVP Show. My intention is that you listen to the stories of these MVP guests and are inspired to become an MVP and bring value to the world through your skills. If you have not checked it out already, I do a YouTube series called How to Become an MVP. The link is in the show notes. With that, let's get on with the show. Today's guest is from the Netherlands. He works at a company called InfoPath as a consultant. He received his first MVP award in 2021. He's interested in all kind of tech, not just the area he specializes in. You can find in the show notes for this episode links to his LinkedIn, Twitter, his website, so you can see all the material that he's doing if you want to connect with him and follow along. Welcome to the show, Django.
Hi, Mark. Thank you. Very happy to join you.
Yeah, well, early morning for you, late in the afternoon, evening for me. I'm really excited to have you on the show. I watched a bit of your video. I seen you've done some presentations at Scottish Summit in 2021, and you're just telling me you've done a few more events more recently. Before I jump into to your story, tell me a bit about what you do when you're not working. What's like, what do you do that passes the time, that is entertaining, that you enjoy?
Yes, I have a 7-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son. So those are my hand tying occupations at the moment when I'm not working.
Yeah.
But mostly it's the cliche things, like I love going out for dinner with my wife and my friends. I watch movies, all kind of movies, a lot. So going to the movies, watching them at home, binging some Netflix or Amazon series. So those are the kind of things. And since COVID, I have made like a promise to myself that when I'm the hours that I'm not in traffic right now, because I'm working from home a lot, is that I should be spending at the gym. So I'm at the moment I'm trying to get in shape more.
Nice. Is it working?
Yeah, I'm losing some weight, so that's always good. And I'm getting in shape more, so that's I cannot complain.
I've done lots of gym memberships and stuff in my lifetime. I've had some very expensive gym memberships. You know how that, you buy for a year and you go 2 or 3 times, and that means those 2 or 3 times are very expensive. But I'm also losing a bit of weight at the moment, and my method is intermittent fasting. So I only eat between 4 in the afternoon and 8 o'clock at night. And then I don't eat any other at all, only water in the in-between times.
And that's working good.
Really good. Like it's the best. I've done it. I'm on 4 months now of doing it, and it's working really well. Because I saw this thing on TikTok, right? The authority on everything TikTok is. And this guy, was really buff on there, and he was like, listen, if you work out and you exercise because you want to lose weight, he said you're wasting your time, because it only deals with, your gym and workout only deals with the last 5% of getting you like toned and ripped and stuff like that. Everything else is diet up to that point. So what you're eating. I agree. So yeah, it's definitely.
I agree.
That one TikTok impacted my thinking, and that's what started me.
That's good to know. I also had a lot of other colleagues who the intermittent fasting worked for them also as well. So it's something to definitely consider. I also realized that changing my way of eating is the best impact, just like you were saying. I just love eating too much good food and occasional dining. Those are the things that keep me going. So I just need to find that balance.
Yeah. What I like about this is that I can eat anything I want in that 4-hour window, and I still lose weight. I can drink, I can, have the beer, I like lots of spirits. And I still I still lose weight every week. It keeps dropping. So I like that it doesn't restrict me from eating anything in particular. So yeah, and there's this app called Zero, Zero, on iPhone, and yeah, it's been fantastic. And allows you to do this, and there's a lot of research and stuff now around intermittent fasting, and because for a long time people were like, oh, you shouldn't do it because it's starving yourself. You're starving. That can't be good for you. But I read this other book by this doctor, and he was saying that the reason why most medical professionals don't talk about it is there's no money to be made in fasting. You are reducing the amount of food intake. You don't need any supplements. It's not good for anybody that wants to sell you something. And I thought that was funny.
I can understand.
Anyhow, the show's not about me; it's about you. So tell us, what was your journey into technology and ultimately into Microsoft Biz Apps?
Yes. So basically, just like a lot of my fellow business applications MVP, is that they're none of the traditional hardcore ITers. Just like myself, I can barely spell HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, JS. So my journey was mainly that of first getting to know one of the Microsoft products when I was like a project manager on Lean Six Sigma and operational excellence. So I was improving business processes from a business perspective. And then the first application that I came into contact with was, I think, SharePoint 2007. And that was, of course, maybe only the document collaboration aspects of project work. So I had a project team. I wanted to share some documents. And then the next question came from, hey, Django, you are pretty familiar with SharePoint 2007. How can we use more functionalities of SharePoint? And then, of course, task management became one of those things. And then from SharePoint 2007, I became familiar with SharePoint 2010, one of the migration projects that I was able to do based on my project management work that I did with the company, a big insurance company at the time. And then they said, you're pretty familiar with IT and the aspects of IT. Maybe you can do like a part-time functional management of this application. So I did that a few years. And then I also had to manage, of course, those external suppliers, those SharePoint consultants. And I had some bad experiences with them in the sense that I was also thinking hey, maybe I can do this better than this SharePoint consultant. And then someone challenged me from, hey, come work with us. So I took that challenge, and that was in 2012, I think, that I became a SharePoint consultant. And yeah, whenever you start being a SharePoint consultant, you get familiar with more of the Microsoft stack. And then, of course, the cloud became a big thing. And Office 365 and SharePoint Online. And then I used applications like InfoPath and SharePoint Designer, and then of course the SharePoint Online migrations of InfoPath to PowerApps was one of the first things that I started the Power Platform with, and it has hooked me ever since.
So are you just in Power Apps, or are you in Power Automate? Are you in Power BI? Are you using the whole Power, virtual agents? Or
yeah, it's mainly the whole Power Platform, but especially within Spark, we have a specialized data and AI team. So the Power BI part is when it's especially the low code, no code functionalities of the reporting, we incorporate it in a Power App or in a Power Automate flow. But the focus is especially on Power Apps and Power Automate. And of course, Power Virtual Agents has become our third focus as well.
Are you doing anything in Power App portals?
Yes, definitely. Yes. So at the moment, it's like this little brother of the Power Apps family. And I'm very excited to see the build, what will be released then, because I think a lot of focus on Power Apps portals has been there in the past. especially since this was, of course, maybe a Dynamics product, looking at the history of PowerApps portals. So, we have a very big customer at the moment where we're launching like a global portal for an inspection company. So, very excited about that. Even if I'm not a Dynamics consultant traditionally, there's a lot of overlap, of course, when looking at the Power Platform and Dynamics.
How have you found that journey with, with SharePoint coming into, ultimately data being stored in SharePoint lists and things, and now you have got Dataverse, which, provides a different set of landscapes. And of course, Microsoft's choice is to get as many of our customers onto Dataverse because, not just because, but the revenue models for Microsoft are obviously more advantageous, right? But you can do so much more. It's a powerful tool, horses for courses, so to speak. What's been that journey for you, though, coming from where, the center of your universe was SharePoint, and InfoPath was the way that you got forms data into it, and of course Microsoft deprecated InfoPath because of too much hassle to rebuild the mobility piece, and now we have PowerApps and everything that comes with that. What's that journey been for you?
Yeah, so that's a very, very good question, because coming from the SharePoint side of the Microsoft stack and starting with Office 365 and Microsoft Teams, and then we rolled into the Power Platform, especially within local user groups where we have this mix of Power Platform consultants coming from what they call the dark side, the Office 365, and the Dynamics consultants, is that the general consensus from the Dynamics consultants are SharePoint is not a database. So don't use it like that. From my point of view, with our customers, it's not that black or white. SharePoint can still be a good place to store data. You just need to know the limitations. And when you reach those limitations, then a customer, when you explain it well enough, is often willing to pay those additional licensing. And I think one of my fellow MVPs, Louise Fries from Germany, said it very, very accurately last month during the Power Platform conference, is that when a business application is not saving you like an average price of Starbucks coffee a month, which is like the average Power per app license at the moment, then why are you bothering with it at all?
Yeah.
So that's a very, very, a very striking consideration.
I like it. What do you see as the future of where low code, no code's going? What do you see as the kind of the gaps that we need to jump across to ultimately get to a future state? And I have in mind, like Satya, quoted some data a couple of years ago now from IDC, which is that 500 million apps need to be built, and there's just not enough developers out there to actually achieve that, based on the IDC research. And so where do you see we are now on the, theoretically the curve ahead to get those apps kind of built? Where do you think we are?
Yeah, definitely. I think it was that quote that said, in the coming 5 years, there will be more business apps built than in the 40 past years combined. And based on that research, there is, of course, a big shortage of developers when you look at it from that point of view. So that's where I think that the future of business applications is with the citizen developer. And the citizen developer could then be anyone within your organization, as long as they know how to use things like PowerPoint, Word, and Excel, which most of the current laptop owners often do. So I think that's where the future is. And then when looking at the current focus for some of the product developments within the Power Platform, is that AI supported citizen development. So there is this PowerApps IDs functionality where you say, hey, I have this data source, and in this data source, I'm going to talk to PowerApps, and I'm going to say in regular business terminology what I want to see. And then PowerApps comes up with the real development code of that request. And I expect there will be a lot of more functionalities like that, even maybe in Power Automate, where you say, I want to automate this part of my process, and then it gives you a template flow or an already configured flow based on your data source. I think those are the first steps needed, because the feedback that I get from my customers is that it's a very steep learning curve. Even though it's low code, no code, when you really want to do the things needed at the moment, maybe to meet some certain business complexity, the learning curve is often too steep. And then it's easy to hire a party like InSpark with some people with experience.
Yeah. As Microsoft have said, with low code, there'll always be a demand for developers. And I feel with even companies more and more building their own team, there'll always be a demand for partners that have done many, many projects that can come in and kind of, scaffold the company to a whole new level because of the expertise, that we have. So yeah, that's interesting. What are you using things like PowerFX and a lot of the stuff you're doing these days?
Yes, especially, of course, within the PowerApps Studio. Then PowerFX is like the main development language in the Power Platform. And I hope to see PowerFX more in maybe portals, hopefully also in Power Automate. And I think once it's in those two main products, hopefully also in Dataverse, maybe when configuring, for instance, columns in the database. And there's, of course, the open source initiative, where you can use PowerFX in your own build applications. So if you're like a hardcore developer, which I am not, but if I were, then I would definitely check that out to see if I could incorporate PowerFX in maybe my custom build application.
Yeah, nice. Tell me, Django, about your journey to MVP. How did that come about?
Yes, so InSpark is in the Netherlands one of the main partners of Microsoft, and I think at the moment when I joined InSpark, they had already like 8 MVPs on a workforce of about 100 people. So considering the fact that Power Platform was relatively new, the business application part, if you're not a Dynamics partner, was maybe not a specialization of MVP-hood that was top of mind with InSpark. But basically InSpark encouraged me to follow that path because they saw the big advantages from my fellow MVPs within the company. And it was also triggering me there because the first session that I once attended as a SharePoint consultant was of a fellow MVP, and he inspired me a lot at that time. And that combined with the encouragement of InSpark triggered me to go for it. So just like any person with MVP ambition, you start investigating what is needed, what is required, and then you see all these big names being an MVP. So first it seems like out of reach. I can never achieve that status. But then you just go for it. It's like every big journey starts with one step. So then I started blogging about topics that I discovered or I encountered. How do you say? I don't want to say bugs and issues. Let's call them challenges within the Microsoft stack. So I started blogging about those, and then from that moment on, I did my first application. That was already within 1 year of my community activities. So just like any good MVP assessment, I got hardly rejected. How'd you say? I fell flat on my face. So that was good because that confirmed my view on being an MVP is really about having that intrinsic motivation about sharing with the community. So then I stepped up from only blogging to also attending community events and presenting about topics and organizing some events within the Netherlands. So then in my second application, about 2.5 years later, then I was welcomed into the MVP family. So that was very cool.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Business Application MVP Mark Smith, otherwise known as the NZ365 Guy. If you like the show and want to be a supporter, check out buymeacoffee.com/NZ365 Guy. Thanks again, and see you next time.